Hello digital educator, and welcome to this video, Shifting Digital Assessment, an ongoing part of our Essentials of Tech-Infused instruction series that we have going on. And as we're getting more and more into this digital space and digital education, we're having to think deeper and deeper about a lot of things that at one point were pretty much second nature to us. And we have long ingrained habits and procedures that go along with them. And assessment is definitely one of those things, because we have to rethink about the whole situation that we're in now. So to help illustrate this, we're going to do something that's called the Google Assistant Challenge. You're going to test your wits against this here. The cell phone has absolutely changed the way in which the world functions, because this thing here carries all of the not all of the information, but so much immensity of information that is just absolutely impressive. And we lose the perspective of that quite a bit about how powerful this thing is. And it's with us all the time. So we're gonna play a game. I know that we're not on the same time-space continuum here, and you can't come back and respond in real time with what's going on, but this is just for fun. It's to help illustrate a point. So you're going to try and answer a question before Google, my digital assistant on my phone, is able to answer it back to me. If you get it right, you get one correct point. If Google gets it right, they get a point. Let's see who has the most points at the end of 3 questions. Ready? First question. Who won the 1978 Super Bowl?
The Dallas Cowboys.
Did you win? Did you get it? Unless you're a huge Cowboys fan, I'm doubting that you knew that the 1978 Super Bowl was won by the Dallas Cowboys. All right, let's try one different. Maybe you're into math. What's 5,012 times 379?
The answer is 1,899,548.
Unless you're some kind of math savant, I really doubt you got that one either. I'm willing to guess it's 2-0 Google right now. How about this one? Who was the 19th president of the United States?
The 19th president of the United States was Rutherford B. Hayes, who was in office from March 4th, 1877 to March 4th, 1881.
So, how'd you do? Maybe you got the last one correct. Maybe for some freak chance reason you knew that it was Rutherford B. Hayes, but in most cases, I'm willing to bet that it's going to be 3-0 on Google's part. And that's okay. Absolutely okay, because that's the new norm. Let's try getting into a space, though, where technology doesn't currently have the capabilities. Maybe someday in the future with AI and adaptive learning it could. But let's try another question to see if you can answer it better than Google can. Is 9 p.m. too late to start a title football game?
Here's what I found.
You probably have a response right now immediately, yes or no. Now, and she just gives me pages and pages and pages of results. Could we teach a computer to aggregate all the data of 9 o'clock versus 6 o'clock versus 1 o'clock showings and show what the ad revenue data is, or turnout, or player performance? Yeah, but in the time it took us to create a computer to be able to do that, or to create an algorithm to be able to do that, you would already have an answer as an individual. It is that space where we firmly reside as humans, and that we are best able to get to places where we can evaluate, where we can synthesize, and where we can analyze. The higher order of blooms is the place that is human, not yet technology. And that's where we should get kids to, not just for the means of this is what impacts the world, but this is where they can't cheat to, but also it's just the right thing to do. To get kids prepared for the world isn't any longer about reciting knowledge, because this thing right here has access to immense amount of data, more stuff than I can fit up here. The advantages of having a cell phone and where their cognition lies is that it has an almost endless, hypothetically endless amount to learn, an amount that it can store. It's super, super fast, and it can do calculations very, very well. But when we start getting to the higher order bloom stuff, that's where we start getting to the human field, and the field that really fills our lives every single day. And so what we have to do is seek to have this assessment not only just be something that kids can't cheat on, but it's got to reflect what the futures of our kids are going to be and the world that's going to look like around them, and also what the technology is that they currently possess inside of their hands. We have to suit that assessment to fit that. So I'm going to present you with 4 strategies here. The first one being take a step off the beaten path. A great number of our curricular materials come from publishers, and the thing is about publishers, they're out there to make money, so they're trying to sell as many textbooks as possible. When you put textbooks across the nation, there tends to be a good penetration of the internet and being able to have resources that support that. And so if you're taking questions directly out of a textbook, there's a really good chance of the fact that they're going to be there. So what I urge you to do is don't think like The Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury, where if you step off the path, you're going to step on a butterfly and it's going to ruin the future. No, I encourage you to take just a couple steps off the path. Change some names, change some exponents, change facts and figures, change small stuff where the exact question is not going to be able to be Googled. Make it your own. Turn it into your own. And have it be something that is unique, that you can't just say it came right from this textbook, because undoubtedly there will be people that have already put it on the internet. So the next one that you can do is create your questions, change your questions so they don't have just one correct answer. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to have assessments that are just rote memorization, that are a recital of knowledge. It's not all the way there. You just keep on going, because we want to be able to take those facts, those figures, those things that we've learned, and we need to parlay them into action, into deeper thinking. It's not that memorizing stuff is bad, but it's just not all the way quite there yet. Keep going. So change those questions that you normally would have just one correct answer. Change them so that they have many, many correct answers, or no correct answers that you have to evaluate as an instructor. You're not going to be able to use a computer, a cell phone, to be able to Google answers for those type of things. The kids have to not only know what the knowledge is, but to be able to apply it in a very deep manner. So try changing the wording of those questions and the format of those questions so that there's multiple correct answers. Another strategy that you can do is to incorporate multimedia response, to have kids record their voice or record the video of them explaining what their answers are. Math is a particularly good example of this. You're really going to have to cut down the number of problems that you do, though, if you're going to do this, because it would take forever to grade. But it is of greater value to do 4 math problems that are indicative of the child's ability. Now, you, of anyone, being the master of your craft, know what that level of mastery of how difficult you need to get to in order for it to represent what knowledge level kids need to be at. Take that problem there and put it in a manner that the kids have to explain their thinking. Like I said, this one's really good with math because we always ask kids to show the work, to show step by step. But the thinking is what resides in between the lines with math, about how did you get from point A to point B, from the second line to the third line. Explain your thinking about how you got there. And you're going to know then whether or not the kid actually did the work or not, whether they can explain it. But one of the things that comes along with both this strategy 3 of having multimedia response, and strategy 2 of using wide open-ended questions, is that it's going to shift away from the way that we think of assessment for a lot of subjects. We've been used to this. There's a correct answer and there's an incorrect answer, and it's pretty quick to go through and grade. But you're going to have to shift away from correctness and incorrectness to varying degrees of correctness or varying progressions along the way towards mastery. And so this will rely a lot more heavily upon the use of rubric-based grading. Wow, that's a mouthful to say. And say if a kid is recording themselves and they have to explain their thinking that's going on, Sure, you might be able to get to mastery, which could be, or to solving the problem, which could be a 3, but to adequately explain could be the level 4 that they get to. Or a kid can get to partial credit. And that's one of the things as well too, is that in a lot of instances, kid was almost there, but we can't give them any points, or we have to give them less points. When we have multiple point questions, which is basically the same thing as a rubric, then you can award those points. But this is very intentional about the way in which we take on assessment and evaluation. And finally, our fourth and final strategy here is that if you want kids to not use technology to cheat, then you need to have very finite amounts of time to express the knowledge. Yes, this is still rote memorization, but the thing is, if you put your questions that are of rote memorization into Kahoot, quizzes, Socrative, then kids aren't going to have time in order to look up the questions. They simply have to know them. There is not the ability to Google things quick enough and evaluate all those answers. You simply have to know them. So then take your assessments or parts of your assessments, put them into a digital formative assessment tool, put it onto a self-paced lesson instead of everybody having to be at the same place at the same time. Kids can go out and do it on their own. The points for the power-ups and for the quickest amount of time answered, they don't matter. They don't count towards anything. But it's a good way for kids to want to seek to be better, to compete. And a lot of kids thrive in that competition thing. Or you can turn it off if you have a bunch of people that are nervous Nellies and it stresses them out to have to think about competing with other people. So take those finite, correct, incorrect questions and put them into a digital formative assessment tool. So we've presented 4 different ways that you can go ahead and shift your assessment to make sure that you're going to be fitting the digital sphere here. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our model school staff because we're here to help.